How would you like to solve some of that belly bloat, excess weight, and low energy, but without having to take another pill, a prescription, or even fast? Well, I've got the answer for you today with a guest talking all about holistic living and some solutions that might sound like a brighter solution for year 2022. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns. Most of all, I hope to inspire you so that you can have the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. You're going to hear all about what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset, sometimes about what to eat and how to move. And this episode is brought to you by the 5-Day Flip. It's a perfect way to get started or get a restart if you're looking for a way to kick off your new year. I'll put the link to that in the show notes. You'll learn a little bit about how to move every day, how to organize a week of exercise so that yesterday and tomorrow both complement what you're doing today. No more random YouTube videos. Let's start, have a little progression, and see some results because of it. Okay. Let's dive into this episode. My guest today is Kristy Garnet. She's a holistic living empowerment mentor and clinical herbalist, serving high-achieving professionals in healing naturally with clear and customized recommendations that do not sacrifice grace or luxury. Having been in the corporate world for nearly 20 years, Kristy understands the demands a career puts on her clients' health and their personal lives. She offers corporate executives, business owners, and type A's, I know you're out there listening, a way out of the overwhelming alternative health and wellness world so that they can choose the most appropriate holistic approach, release emotional resistance, and balance a career with luxurious self-care so they can reach their goals with energy and ease. After her own serious health scare in her 20s, she started to discover the alternative health arena, but was concerned she needed to give up the luxuries of modern life and the high-end lifestyle she enjoyed. We're going to dig into today just why she found that's not true. Kristy, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so nice to speak with you, Deborah.
There's so much to unpack, but I really want to dig into a couple of things. First, it's always nice to know the why behind our guests. Like, why are you doing this? So I think we teased a little bit of it, and that's why I didn't want to tell too much of your story. So talk to me a little bit about, in your 20s, you had a health scare. So what was that all about?
Yes. So when I was in graduate school, I was doing research and I was working in a lab and just really putting my life in place. I wanted everything to fall in line. And I would have these moments where I would feel like I was doing just fine, but I always had digestive issues or some small headaches, but I just kept pushing. So one day I ended up with a migraine for about 3 days, actually. It lasted from like a Friday to a Sunday. And I eventually went to the ER, and what they gave me was this medication to help with migraines, and it tipped me into a mini stroke. And so from there, I was hospitalized and I went through this battery of tests, and it was about a year of all kinds of testing and medication. And so that was a really huge turning point in my life. And that's the health scare that actually set me on a completely different path and is why I do what I do today.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, how many times in my life have I heard someone say in their 20s they had a stroke? Okay, never. So this is the first. Okay, so huge learning experience. I mean, for my own experience, and nothing like yours, but a traumatic back injury that happened in my 20s put me way wiser than my years, right? And so there was certainly value in it, which I'm guessing is part of your story, why you're doing what you're doing. But I'm really also cluing into the word and the talk about luxury. So where does that come in? And so it seems to me that what you are saying is that you were struggling with the, wanting to like be over here in the granola kind of minimalist alternative world lifestyle versus the more luxury and life as we know it lifestyle. Is that summarizing it well?
Absolutely. So what happened when I was in that research hospital, because I was doing my graduate work outside of Washington, D.C., and I was in ecology. So I was really studying the physiology of plants, and also had that background as a biologist in human physiology. And so I was asking the medical system all these really researchy questions. And I was, wanting so desperately to help the earth and the environment. And so I was in these crosshairs. So I really see myself as a bridge, because what I needed to do was go into that granola alternative health arena so that I could actually heal the root of my issues. But when I would walk in there, I would feel so out of place. And then I would move back into the research area and be having, great nights out and these really wonderful dinners, and I wouldn't feel right there. So what I ultimately learned is that in order to actually have great health, I needed, and I believe my clients need this too, I needed to be able to bridge that gap between luxury and holistic alternative healing.
I love that. And you really have made that kind of a core piece of what it is you do. You think luxury is the missing link when it comes to holistic living and healing. So let's keep going in that and kind of unpack that just a little bit more for our listeners.
Absolutely. What I in my heart of hearts know is that humans need to have the ability to justify and empower themselves into a new habit. And when we are always looking at deprivation and sacrifice and only relying on our willpower, the failing just continues to happen, and we start off with well intentions and good intentions, and then we just drop off because we can't fuel ourselves. But if you add that piece of luxury, and luxury is whatever you believe is what makes your life meaningful and purposeful, and why you really is your why. So once you incorporate luxury into your life, then the empowerment to change your life becomes so different. It almost becomes easier, or like a mission. It's a drive that you can't just have on will alone.
I love that. So you're really helping people find pleasure as opposed to the deprivation that they think has to come with, I love your saying willpower. We talk about that so very much that, that I hear clients all the time say, I don't have any willpower, or I just don't have any discipline, or I'm not motivated. And I totally agree. I think that is a big obstacle for a lot of people. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about natural remedies, because I think as a collective community, definitely here, our listeners, we're all interested in shifting toward how can we feel better without, or immediately, without the ramifications long term of that coming back to bite us. And I think we're also far more conscious than 20 or 30 years ago about what kind of environment are we leaving or creating for our younger generations. So how do natural remedies and mindset awareness is a part of that as well empower healing?
So this question is absolutely one of my favorite questions. But before I jump into that, I'd love to go back to what you said about willpower and discipline. For a lot of type A's, which is my client base and who I am, let's be honest, at some level, the idea of discipline and motivation is what puts us into a healing crisis. So for me, when we're talking about natural remedies and herbs and supplements and how we can be mindful about where we're putting our resources, this is really critical when it comes to anyone who is looking for a solution for themselves, because those natural remedies is really what I needed and what my clients need, because our ecosystem is in this place of flux. And so when we are looking for things that really make a difference for our bodies, it automatically will line up when we're being aware of how we source those natural supplements, natural herbs, and that type of consciousness, that type of awareness in your choice. Does that make sense?
It does. So let's really dive into natural remedies. And I think maybe open that up and talk about some specific examples. If you could give us a couple, because I want to make sure for listeners that we're not maybe talking about an umbrella term that they're not quite sure. What does that mean, or what would it look like for me?
Sure, absolutely. So, a lot of times what people are thinking of as natural gets imploded. So we can talk about food, we can talk about teas, we can talk about supplements. But when I think of natural remedies as a clinical herbalist, I think of the whole entire plant, because that is what we have access to. So that's the root, the stem, the leaves, the essential oils, the flower essence. So all of these are potential ways that you can use natural remedies. And the luxury is which one is right for you. So this can be something as simple as a tea, a dandelion, let's say dandelion root versus dandelion leaf tea. One will support you in increasing the strength of your bladder and making sure that you're not, having any issues there. The other aspect will allow you to detox. And when I say detox, it's a gentle way of releasing certain toxins in your liver. So those are ways in which a natural remedy can be split apart, 10 different ways. And then there might be another aspect where it comes to essential oils, which is a huge modality for quick, natural ways to either calm yourself down or lift yourself up. So those are just a couple of quick examples, but I could go on and on and on with digestive remedies and anything you want to explore. I just find that when it comes to plants, you have to really know what you're wanting to rebalance before you go into the specifics.
I think that's great advice. Okay, so my audience is, I can imagine thinking, oh yes, talk about gut, please. So if we can use you just for a little bit while you're here in a captive audience with me, what if we said we've got somebody who tends to have a lot of gas, a lot of bloating? What might be the first place you would start? And although each individual might be different, I don't want to paint you back in a corner. So be open and honest if you can't fully answer that. But where would you start, or what things might first come to your mind?
So this is a great topic, because gas and bloating and gut health is so top of mind right now. And what I find is that once you actually realize that a probiotic is likely contributing to gas and bloat and not actually knocking that down, you can move to a different way of treating that symptom. So for me, I often say that you need to work with a digestive enzyme. So that's something like papaya, that's something like pineapple, or there's a lot of digestive enzymes out there. So a peppermint tea can help with bloat. But what you really are looking for is to make sure that you're not contributing to this gut flora that's out of balance with your diet. So obviously you're going to do something that is the right food for you. But if that doesn't work out, one of my favorite herbs is slippery elm, and that I travel with, I take everywhere. And activated charcoal, that's another really great supplement for gas and bloat. So it really depends on you. And here's the beauty about luxury. When you include luxury, you can have these great high-end products either as a tea, a capsule. You can find them in ways that you can digest them in something that feels good for you. So that's another thing about, gas and bloat is how quickly are you digesting your food? How quickly are you eating your food? And are you actually mindfully having your meals?
I love that. Yes, say that fast, right? Gas and bloat, and yeah. It's a quiz. We'll do this again later. Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think the funny thing is you've said it is so top of mind right now, gas and bloating. And I think it is, and you and I would both agree, although I don't know if that is so true for a 20-year-old or for a male, maybe who's not, in this midlife. But I think as midlife females, it's almost all what we're talking about, or we're not talking at all about it, but we're saying no to a lot of things, a lot of life that because we don't feel comfortable, we don't want to go out, we don't want to risk it. So I think it's coming up a lot. So great instance of how we can use something natural and not kind of add fuel to the fire, right? With a remedy that ultimately is not fixing it. And I think that we also want to get to what is the difference between treating symptoms and treating the root cause, and why is it so important to distinguish which of those you're doing?
So I'm going to try this again because, if you're having gas and bloat, I am 99% certain that you're not having typical or normal bowel movements. I'm 99% certain there's other stuff going on. And for me, I know that my migraines that eventually kicked into, mini strokes, my root issue was my digestive system. And so when you are talking to amazing practitioners out there, they should be asking really interesting questions like, what happens when you fall asleep? Do you bloat in the middle of the night, or is it during the day? Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Because all of that really starts to paint a story as to what is the root cause. Because ultimately, I think we're all kind of fed up with treating the symptoms. I get it. Nobody wants gas and bloat. Everybody is either going to avoid that, tight pair of jeans, or they're going to buy a new pair and just say, this is just my life. But wouldn't it be great to not just have to take a supplement and live with it and actually address the root of the issue?
Yeah, I think amen to that, right? and here's what I want all of our listeners to understand is that is an option. And I think so many times we assume and or there never has been a time in our lives where natural remedies for the majority of us were always the way to go. I can't tell you how many times I had, a sore throat or strep throat, and it was always, let's just get the penicillin, right? At growing up. And that became, the way we fixed things, right? I need an antibiotic. I'm going to, go to the doctor. I'm going to get a prescription. And we're not necessarily surrounded, at least with Western medicine, with ideas that are totally root cause. So many of them are, let's deal with the symptom that you've got right now, but that could be compounding what else is going on. So love, love, love that you're kind of talking about this and addressing it in this way. This is very unique. So what are the results that you're getting when you're working with clients and you begin to embody the idea of the luxury, because we're really talking about what kind of health change do you see? Permanent change, not just temporary fix.
So it's huge. What I do is I work with people in 6-month programs, mainly because we can get results in 30 days, we can get results in 90 days, but the mindset around those results and keeping them permanently takes 6 months. I tried 30 days programs. I tried to offer 90-day programs. And really, when you are moving out of this, let's treat the symptoms and then move on, after about 90 days, some of those sneaky little habits that we've had for, 40 years, 30 years, they start creeping back in. And then you hear, oh, I got to get back on track. Oh, I just fell off the wagon. And so for me, you really need to commit for longer term. And that is where the results are so ingrained and so embodied that people actually forget when they started the program. They start saying, I'll say, oh, so how's your knee pain? Oh, I didn't have knee pain. And then because I take notes, I'm like, well, yeah, in this state, we talked about knee pain and we did stuff with your kidneys to make sure you weren't having any excess inflammation and your knee stopped swelling. They're like, oh yeah. So, permanent results are often in the physical aspect, but also from a mindset shift. It's like, yeah, I can have both. I can have Western medicine and the prescriptions that I actually need, and I can have this horrible tasting tea in a beautiful cup. So it's remarkable the shifts that people make, literally life-changing, all from all aspects, emotional, physical, mental, and some have even really shifted their perspective on how they view the world from what I refer to as a spiritual approach.
Love that. And I also want to come back to, you're saying, you've tried shorter programs, but you prefer 6 month. I think we're definitely on the same page with that. And part of my reasoning behind that is I want to be with somebody long enough that they do fall off the bandwagon, because life is messy. If you're going to have meaningful people and meaningful things in it, it's messy. And you are going to have the wheels fall off the bus. But if you have a program, you have some accountability right there, you can get back on and pick yourself back up so much easier. And there will be resistance if you've fallen off to get back up. So having somebody in your corner really helps. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. The quick fixes tend not to work. And I think we should say this out loud. The myth that a habit, is something you can form in 3 weeks is just that. There's no science behind it. 66 days. 66 days is what science has proven it takes to either make or break a habit. So, we're talking over 2 months. And, so the idea that you can do a 7 day something or 14 days something, you may ignite a fire. but you're still going to have to keep that momentum. So be kind to yourself if you're listening and you've started and stopped so many things. I've never spoken to an audience where the first couple of questions I ask are how many of you have started an exercise program? Leave your hand up. How many of you have ever stopped an exercise program? Same hand still up, right? I mean, nobody puts their hand down. We've all done it. So give yourself a little grace and realize that's a normal process of learning. So, okay, so this is the one of the most challenging questions that I think I'm going to ask you all day. And our listeners are hanging on the edge of their seat because one of the biggest obstacles for people is time. Where do you think people can find more time? And the second to that is more energy.
So I actually love this question because time is a interesting beast that I really love thinking about. So, you know, those days that drag on forever, and then there are these other days that are gone in a blink of an eye. To me, that means that I have the ability to allocate time, right? I have the ability to allocate what I want to focus on during a day. And so I have developed this approach, which is give yourself the space and start with 30 seconds. 30 seconds of complete and utter silence. I don't care what you have to do. You have to go to the bathroom and close your eyes. You have to just leave your phone. 30 seconds, time it, and you will be able to see how either short or long that feels. And so when you start identifying that time can be something you can manipulate by the way you feel in your body, then you have a lot more freedom. Now, I am not at all diminishing how busy we all are and the demands of spouses and partners and children and work. But I do know that you can shift your relationship with time so it feels either crunched or spacious. So hopefully that does that give you a direct practical answer? Because sometimes that's hard to put into something that is tangible.
Well, it certainly is. I think that is very realistic. And I think that, people are looking for, do I have to somewhat ditch, and almost ditch some of what they feel are luxuries, right? In order to, okay, I've got to sacrifice to make changes. I'm going to have to, give up this or this or this, and I think if you can say, all right, where do you get 5 minutes? Here's an example that I will give people. And I think this stacks up. I, am an advocate for smoothies. So I love whole food, but sometimes if you're somebody who skips breakfast with the excuse of I don't have time, a smoothie is a great way to get a high protein breakfast really quickly. But many of my ladies will then come back to me with, what do I do on the days I don't have time to make a smoothie? And I'm like, wait a minute here. I'm talking 2 minutes, right? Yes. So something else is wrong. There's no prioritization. You don't believe in it. You don't think you need it, something else. But we make them in advance, like a little assembly line on a Sunday afternoon. So you've got 10 smoothies in a baggie, except for the liquid. You just bought yourself whatever that might take for you, which is 5 or 10 minutes every day. And if you could find some way to do that elsewhere in your routine, now you have 20 minutes for a workout you didn't have before. Talk to me about that. So other suggestions, what do you do yeah.
Yeah, this is perfect. I know exactly what you're talking about. So this is also one of those things where when you become really aware of what your body needs, the time that it takes to give it give it what it needs is a choice. So for me, I know that my digestive system is challenged at different times of the month, at different points during stress. And so, because I'm so tuned in and I've had so many years to identify what I actually need to do to make myself feel well, I will do things like I will bake meatballs, and then I have cold meatballs. I know that that's not even, doesn't sound appealing for a lot of people, but that's a great example of when I do have 20 or 30 minutes to bake something, then it's in the fridge ahead of time and I have that. Or for me, I create my own tea blends. And so once the blend is made, I just can literally pop the herbs into a travel mug and have the water. So for me, tea is very therapeutic and I need to be able to have access to it. So everything is about ease. How do I make, this is my personal way of thinking about my health. How do I make it easy and luxurious? And for me, the luxury of going to a travel mug full of tea is one of the things I value in my life. And that is a hard place to get to if you feel like garbage. So I want to be honest and really echo what you said. Give yourself some grace and allow yourself the ability to know that your intention is there. You just need to prioritize what is good for you. So it might be that you need more exercise than the perfect diet. And that might be a trade-off for 2 or 3 days. And then you'll go back and add in the proper diet.
Great ideas. Love that. Okay, Christy, where can listeners get more Christy?
Oh, well, I feel like I'm everywhere, but I believe that you have the link to where everybody can find me. You know, there's a summit that I'll be doing coming up, and I think all the information is available through your website.
Fantastic. I do have the link. So we'll also put the link to your main website to reach Christy on social media. For those of you who'd like to follow her, it's always nice to have another friend or ally on social media that you trust. And Christy, what's the title of the summit?
Oh, Holistic Living with Luxury. It is a health conference with global experts all speaking on what they do best and how they can support their clients and patients to live with holistic living and natural remedies and health.
Fantastic. And listeners, that is January 10th through the 21st of 2022. So we will keep you posted. We'll have the links on the show notes, and that will be for details about the summit, you can go to flipping50.com/Christy. That's Christy with a K and a Y. There are a lot of things you have to be specific about with your name. It seems like, okay, this ought to be really simple, but it's not anymore. It's never simple with names anymore.
Nope.
And listeners, if you have a question that you wish I would have asked Christy, please leave that below the show notes. And you can find those at flipping50.com/luxury. What don't you love about that word? And what are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today.